I never heard of Plato's allegory until just now, so that is exactly how I feel. I feel like I'm trying to show people there's something else, there's more meaning, there's something hidden in between the polemics of the Bible if you just listen for them. And I'm going to read to you this excerpt from a book called Asherah and the Cult of Yahweh. And it's going to kind of tie in with my last video about Eve's name, snakes, trees, etc. So just listen. Was there a relationship between the two cult objects destroyed by Hezekiah and opposed by the Deuteronomistic school? There is a good chance that there was. In Canaanite religion of the Bronze Age and Iron Ages, the goddess Asherah appears to have had associations with the serpent. If we accept the likely identification of Tanit as Asherah and the etymology of Tanit proposed by Cross, we would have evidence of this association. Further, Asherah appears to have carried a second epithet in the Bronze Age, dot botany, also the one of the serpent. If we accept Albright's suggestion that the Ugaritic Atherat Yami ought to be understood as she who treads on the sea dragon, so that's Asherah's name, she who treads on the sea dragon, Atherat Yami, we have more evidence for what the somewhat obscure association of Asherah and the serpent. One suspects that an early myth associating the sea serpent and dragon and Asherah has been lost. Perhaps a reflex of this myth is preserved in the Eden story in Genesis. After all, Hawa, Eve, is an attested epithet of Tanit, Asherah in the first millennium BCE. The frequent appearance of the serpent in the representations of Kudshu, who is Asherah in Egypt, from Bronze Age Egypt must also be taken into account here. The cumulative evidence associating the serpent and the goddess Asherah suggests in our view that the bronze serpent Nehushtan of the Jerusalem temple may have been an Asherah cult symbol and was therefore removed by Hezekiah along with the Asherah itself. The symbol had been perfectly legitimate up to that time. It even had a prestigious pedigree. And I have some more to add. First, let me rephrase everything. So the reason I am bringing in these cult objects and Asherah and Eve is because they're all associated together. The reason that these cult objects were taken away from the temple at a specific time is because they were associated with the goddess when they were trying to get rid of her. So the Moses story is written centuries after the fact, after things happen, because it's trying to create an ideology of why these images were in the temple. Why would there be a graven image of a snake? Oh my gosh, we have to explain that. Okay, well, we'll say that it was from Moses. We'll say that it's from our ancient ancestor, our progenitor, okay? And we're going to say that this image is, the menorah is also connected to Moses when it's actually connected to Asherah. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Because they're written long after, hundreds of years, these items have been in the temple. And yeah, obviously the menorah stays, it's kept, but they've lost the initial understanding and the meaning behind it. So the association of Asherah with snakes is prevalent. Also, Asherah, her name is mother of all living, creatress of creatures. Eve's name means life. She is the mother of all living. She's encode, mother of all living. She shares the same epithet basically with Asherah. I hope I explained that okay. I'm going to read another segment from a book called Women in the Hebrew Bible. This is under the title Tree, Serpent, and Eve. In the construction of the Eden story, there are so many paronomastics happening that we're not hearing because we're listening to it in English. If we could read in Hebrew, we would understand what they were putting down. We'd be picking it up. Because in the context of the story, understanding who Asherah is, what a snake means, we'd know what they were trying to convey. A similar rhetorical phenomenon lies behind the third association, which involves an intricate play on Eve's name. According to Genesis 3:20, the woman is named Hawa, ostensibly for being the progenitress of all living. But if that were all, she would have been named Haya, i.e. life-bearer. What Hawa adds to Haya is an allusion to the serpent. For in Aramaic and other cognate languages, serpent is Huya. I apologize for my pronunciation. Since there has not yet been found a Semitic source for the word Hawa, it may be adjudged a neologism, created to stand phonologically between Haya and Huya in order to encompass both. Such portmanteau-like words are coined to telescope two terms into one by exploiting the overlap between homonymy and synonymy. To compound, if not to enrich matters, note that Hawa can also denote speech or to declare. An allusion to speech in the word Hawa would make it possible to hear, as it were, a speaking serpent in her name. There are deeper meanings to this story, whether people want to believe it or not. This is not coming from me. I might not do a great job at explaining. I understand that, which is why I'm trying to get people to read the books for themselves. So does anybody have any questions? Ancient Hebrews were Canaanites through and through. They loved wordplay and puns, just like the Phoenicians did, just like on the ball cycle. There's so many alliterations. There's fun wordplay that you don't catch just reading it in English, it being transliterated. So I encourage you to have a bit of imagination and again, understanding the context, a better understanding of history now that you know that there was no concise, united history. There never has been, there never was, there likely never, ever will be. That's just human nature. So to think that just because it says so in the Bible means that it's true is wrong, because we can see here there's clearly allusions to something deeper than just the first created man and woman being kicked out of a garden and now they don't get everlasting life. Please use your imagination and just read the books. The Hebrew brings it all clear, and then the context, knowing how Canaanites worshipped, polytheism worked, brings it all clearer to you. Monotheism is cultural erasure. It's supremacy. I'm better than you. My God's better than you. It's throwing your God's D around. It's all opinions. It's all man's opinions on the supernatural. That is it. You can do that on your own. Was I saying something? Anyway, yeah, was there any questions?